Tuesday.
How you doing? 10:05. What an interesting hour, by the way, that was. If you missed it, you can catch up again, of course, on BBC Sounds. Thank you so much for all your texts and your calls. There was a young guy paralysed at the weekend playing football. If tech can help with things like that, then this is exactly what we want to see. You don't want things like that to stand in your way. That was an anonymous text into us. Mo says, no one's forcing scientists to advance this tech and our species even further. They have agency and choose to do it also. However, controlled animal experiments are they are inherently cruel, says Mo. Keep your thoughts on that coming in. 80295, we were talking about this idea of one of Elon Musk's companies inserting the first brain chip to help people who have been either paralysed or blind or lots of different sort of disabilities. Apparently that can help with. Anyway, that was the last hour. On the way next...
Seriously, you're in transport. It's not great.
What do you mean?
Every time you sort something out, it always goes wrong.
The repair shops, J Blades, will be joining me soon actually to chat about touring the UK in a tool shed with his friend Sir David Jason. Also, Ross Allen will be here soon to take your questions in our Ask the Vet surgery. Any pet health related questions, get them into us, 80295, or give us a call, 08085 92 95 00. You don't even need an appointment. And... are among the baby names banned in New Zealand, but these names have actually been used right here in Scotland. Have you called your child something unique? Maybe you know a king, maybe you know a captain. Text me 80295 on that. Plus we'll be looking at why more young people seem to be dying from bowel cancer and what is behind the rise. And also we'll be discussing this idea of what is the best way and what is the best time to contact your pharmacist. It's on the way before 12.
All the conversations that matter.
Mornings on BBC Radio Scotland.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
Yeah, that time, that moment of thinking, do I go to the GP? Do I go to the pharmacist? Do I go to the opticians? Who's the best person to go to and at what point? We'll be talking about that later. But it is Tuesday, it's just gone 10 o'clock, which means it is now time for our weekly Name the Place quiz here on BBC Scotland. If you're unfamiliar with it, this is how it works, right? Carol Huff provides a list of excellent, for me, definitely mind-boggling clues that should lead to a place in Scotland. When you think you've got the answer, you can text me on 80295. And when someone gets it right, you will hear this noise. Right, that's the sound that you want to hear if you've been texting in, because it might be you that's got the right answer. So this is the first clue, okay? Clue number 1. The first clue to today's place name has gone up in price. That's the first clue to today's place name has gone up in price. If you think you know the answer, 80295, get in touch with me. Let's kick this off, this hour off though with Dua Lipa, Dance the Night Away.
Tonight, I can take the heat, baby. Best believe that's the moment I shine. 'Cause every romance shakes and it bends. Don't give a damn. When the night's here, I don't do tears, baby. No chance. I could dance, I could dance, I could dance. Watch me dance, dance the night away. My heart could be burning, but you won't see it on my face. Watch me. No steps, 'cause every romance shakes and it bends. Don't give a damn. When the night's here, I don't do tears, baby. No chance. I could dance, I could dance, I could dance. Watch me dance, dance the night away. My heart could be burning, but you won't see it on my face. Watch me dance, dance the night away. I'll still keep the party running. I want it out of place. When my heart breaks, when my world when there are diamonds on my face. I still keep the party going, not one hair out of place. Yes, I can. When the tears are flowing, there are diamonds on my face. Yes, I can. I still keep the party going, not one hair out of place. Watch me dance, dance the night away. My heart could be burning, but you won't see it on my face. Watch me dance, dance the night away. I'll still keep the party running, I wouldn't get out of place. When my heart breaks, when my world shakes, I don't play safe, don't you know about me? I could dance, I could dance, I could dance, dance the night.
Dua Lipa there on BBC Radio Scotland, Dance the Night. How you doing? Right, we've already got a wrong named place into us, and it's only 11 minutes past 10. That's quite good going. At the moment, we've got Lanarkshire just generally. It's not that, right? If you keep your thoughts on this coming in, you can do, right? So 80295 is the way to get in touch. If you have never played Name the Place before, this is how you do it, right? We're going to give you a list of clues, and it should lead to a place in Scotland. And when you think you've got the right answer, you text me on 80295. The first clue today is this, right? The first clue to today's place name has gone up in price. The first clue to today's place name has gone up in price. In fairness, that literally could be anything. So the fact that you're actually putting in some suggestions and guesses on this in general is fantastic. So well done to you for that. If you get it right, I'll be amazed. 80295, and I'll give you the second clue shortly. Right, okay. It is 12 minutes past 10 on BBC Radio Scotland. And in reality, right, all the talent that the actor Sir David Jason oozes from our TVs and our theatres. I bet you didn't know that he's also really good at fixing stuff. I didn't know that, right? Well, Repair Shops J Blades knew all about that, and he and his friend are now out on the road with their travelling tool shed, we're told, visiting destinations right around the UK and finding out about what needs fixed and where. And they've actually made a TV show about it. And we're recently in Murray, in the village of Portsoy, to try and help out there. And Jay joins me on the programme. Morning to you. Morning, Jay. Are you with me?
Morning. How are we doing?
How good. Just for our listeners' benefit, right? So sometimes with these interviews, we can do them so that we can see the people we're chatting to. You're on Zoom this morning, and I see you're running about. Have we caught you on the hop?
Yeah, you caught me on the hop. I've got a car that's being delivered, and he was supposed to come earlier, but he's come now. So,
Could you believe
it's always the wait.
Right, listen, I'm glad you're with us. It's really good to have you this morning. This sounds like one of those most simple concepts for a TV show, but you know, to actually make it work is it cannot be easy. Talk to us about how it all came about in the first place.
Well, how it came about, I'd done a Strictly Come Dancing, done the Christmas special, and I was dancing to Only Fools and Horses theme tune. So David then done a video for me saying, like, well done, really like what you've done, but you need to pay me some money because you're dancing to my tune. And that was a bit of a joke. And I said to him, I then done a video and invited him down to the repair shop, which he did do. He came down there with his wife, and yeah, we just hit it off. We started talking, and I said to him, I'd love to do a show with you. And he says, make it happen, and which I did, and here we are.
I'm not being funny, Jay, but did you have that moment where you're looking and there's Sir David Jason walking in to your tool shed and you're thinking, or the repair shop, and you're thinking, right, wait a minute here, this is a big moment because he's so iconic.
Yeah, he is. He is iconic. I don't think I had that moment. I don't get kind of starstruck.
What?
I think no. But I tell you what happened. It was when we were sitting down, we're filming the tool shed, and then basically we're eating an ice cream together, and that's when it dawned onto me. I'm like, hold on a minute.
There's Del Boy.
Sitting there with Sir David. Yeah, this Del Boy. It's Sir David Jason. He's right here. Hold on, this is not. Yeah, it's really happening. And at one point, I just squeezed my foot. I couldn't pinch myself because I had an ice cream in my hand, and I was like, squeeze my foot just to make sure. Yeah, it's true. It's real. I'm awake. So yeah, that's what it was.
That's cool, isn't it?
That was the plan.
That's a really sort of like a moment of realizing you're alive, which is really special. They don't often come around too often. So so he said to you, right, make it happen. What did you do? And did you have an idea in your mind about what that might actually look like and what you were going to do together?
Kind of had an idea, but it was more of a development between two of us. So it was looking at what he likes doing, and then introducing that to the TV world, because it was kind of, how can you explain it? He is a massive tinkerer. So when he's shared in his house, he's always fixing stuff or inventing something and just making. He's constantly making. So I thought, why not just bring that to the screen? Because he loves to make. So why not meet other people? We had a few other ideas, but no, they weren't good enough. This one was the one. That one, yeah.
And were you surprised, or did you have any idea that when you first met each other, that you had similarities in terms of the stuff that you enjoyed doing, the idea of tinkering? I think it's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah. No, I had no idea. You've got to think, Del Boy, he's had so many different characters, and the career that he's had is unbelievable. So I never knew anything like that. I never knew he liked tinkering. I never knew he was a maker. And then to find that out, it's like, really? And then I had to see it for myself. I had to see, because it's all well and good someone saying, oh, I can make, I can do stuff. And then you go and see their stuff and you're like, wow, okay. Yeah, you can make stuff, but I'm not sure it can go in the public domain because it looks a bit dangerous. But all of the things that he makes is just like, well, he's making rockets. I think they go up about 2,000, I think it's 2,000 feet up in the air. And then they have a parachute. So it opens up, and then the parachute comes out, and then it lands safely, so it doesn't break when it lands to the ground. And it's like, well, how did you think of that? Yeah, he's unbelievable.
And he must have been. There's that thing, isn't there? There's that moment whenever you meet someone who's like-minded, and you just have that connection. You hit it off, and there's that great feeling of possibility and what you could do. I'm assuming that he must have had that with you as well, because of what you do and the skills and the talents and that you've got up your sleeve.
Yeah, I think it's like when I met the king, or he was the prince then, and now he's the king. But basically,
I love how you just dropped that one in there.
I know I had to. I'm on BBC Scotland, and I come on.
Yeah, I met the king.
But basically, once you've got someone that you have a shared interest, you just get on. It's like two people supporting the same football team. They might be from different sides of the pond, so different parts of the world or whatever, but they get on because they have a common interest. And that's basically it. I think that we got on because of that, and then a love for comedy and a love for doing something completely different. That's what it was.
I love also, because I was reading about your own story, which I didn't realise before, and it's quite remarkable that, and I guess such a cliche, it creates hope for people, but actually your story really is very inspirational. Tell us a little bit about...
Oh, thank you.
It really is. Tell us a little bit about, I guess, how that started for you and your love of making things and working with your hands and how that has really come from I guess, where you started. Tell us a little bit about that. You're the best person to tell the story.
Well, I basically started the making. I've been doing charity work and working with young people for like 20 years. And I've mainly done conflict resolution, so working on the streets with young people that are doing antisocial behaviour and stuff like that. And then the funding started drying up. So basically what I then decided to do was teach young people how to restore and revamp old furniture. Now, I knew nothing about the furniture industry. So luckily for me, I was based in High Wycombe, and High Wycombe used to be kind of like the furniture capital, had all of the great furniture designers there. So there was a lot of retirees, and I went to the community and said, well, can you teach me and the young people how to restore and revamp old furniture? And that's where my love came from making. And here I am. I think it must be at least 17 years later, because I'd started that quite a while ago, teaching young people. And that's what worked for me and what worked for the young people, is seeing the joy in these young people's faces who were not necessarily academic, but they were makers. They could make something. So achieving something and showing and seeing and touching that actual thing that you made or you repaired was like, wow, you could just see the joy in their face. It was like this self-esteem was just filling up every time they did something. So to me, making actually achieved something that I never knew it would achieve with these young people. And that's what gave me the bug to just keep on going.
Do you think that came from the fact, I mean, your own personal background? You left school at 15, you had undiagnosed dyslexia as well, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, found out I was dyslexic when I was about 31.
And
I had the reading ability of an 11-year-old at 30. Yeah, at 31, going to university. How silly was I?
well, some might say, I guess that's part of the story, isn't it? That's part of, or is that, do you think, something that's helped you with the work that you do? And I guess, was that part of the catalyst for making you want to help these younger people in the first place, given what happened to you?
Yeah, I think the catalyst was that what had happened to me. And also it was a case of giving back. I'm a great believer in we should all give back in some way, shape or form. Start off with your local community. And then if you can branch out. I started doing volunteer work, and the volunteer work, wow, opened my eyes to people who were less fortunate than myself. And it made me realize that no matter what I'm going through, sometimes you might feel a little bit down and what have you, but there's some people who have really got it tough. They've got a tough life. So it's basically, if you're fortunate that you can help those people, then that's what you should be doing. So yeah, I enjoy volunteering. I enjoy it. I think I still do it now. I go out there and support loads of different charities and whatever.
Do you think it's... I remember reading somewhere you were speaking about that furniture for you and that part of that restoration and the things that you can create with that was something that helped you through some dark times in your own life. And is that something that you would encourage other people to... There's this idea of working with your hands, you know, being in the moment of doing that thing. It's like a kind of mindfulness tool, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah, I think any form of making, now don't get me wrong, some people don't like it. Some people have intelligent minds, and then there's other people who have intelligent hands. And intelligent hands can actually make stuff. And everything we have, even the microphone, the headphones, all that stuff you're wearing is made by someone. So as it's made by someone, there's a sense of achievement that you get when you're making something. It's just like, if you put up a shelf and the shelf is good, it's not wonky, and you've got a trophy or you've got a picture on there, every time you pass that shelf, you'll be looking at it and saying, oh, I did that. And you feel quite proud. Yeah. And I'm not saying you can't do that with writing a report or something like that. But it's different when you make something. So the sense of achievement that you get will release, I think it's some endorphins. I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but it releases something inside you that makes you feel good. And then as you feel good, you might be down a little bit, but then that picks you up. And I think a lot of people who make, they will kind of understand what I'm saying. There's a sense of achievement that you can't. Yeah, it's not the same as the being very academic, I think. Well, because I'm not academic.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think the beauty sometimes people say about life is finding the thing that puts you in your flow, and that's different for everyone.
Ooh, that's nice, isn't it? It puts you in your flow. Yeah, because some people love writing reports. Some people love reading, and they're brilliant at it. Me, that's not my forte. I'm not that type of guy. So I would prefer to have something that I've made or, see it every day, sit on it, look at it. Yeah, that's me. That's what floats my boat or gives me my flow. I do like that one.
Yeah, you can use that for free.
That's nice.
Right, if I see that in the next episode, I'll be like, There we go.
You know where I got it from.
Right, there we are. Right, episodes of David and Jay's Touring Tool Sheds are available right now to watch on BBC iPlayer. It's been brilliant to talk to you, Jay. Thanks for coming on.
Likewise. Thank you. And sorry for running around. It's just, sometimes life gets in the way. When you have a day off, it's that everything happens.
Don't you worry about it. It was just good to have you on. Jay Blades there, presenter of The Repair Shop. And as I say, the new programme, David and Jay's Touring Tool Shed, available right now on iPlayer. Right, it's 24 minutes after 10.
When you decide to step up to this kind of power, this kind of challenge, this kind of flying, crashing, feeling, when you decide to get serious, there's only one place to come, the games of Super Nintendo. No one else creates this kind of experience, because no one else creates these kinds of games. Now you're playing with power, superpower.
Still to come here on BBC Scotland. Have you got a unique name, right? Or have you called your baby something unusual? So I remember my mum telling me the story that because my actual Sunday name is Constance, and she told someone whenever she had me, "Oh, what's your baby's name?" And she said Constance, and the woman turned around and said, "Oh, you're joking." And my mum just casually walked past. So people do have their own thoughts on names. It's a very personal thing. I'd love to hear you if you've named your baby something unusual or you have an unusual name. 80295. We're looking at some of the names that have actually been banned in New Zealand, but they've actually been used here in Scotland though, so we're going to be chatting about that a little bit later. And also we've got another clue for today's Name the Place, right? I gave you clue number 1. I'll recap it for you. The first clue to today's place name has gone up in price. The first clue to today's place name has gone up in price. Clue number 2, the second clue, well, do you know what, I'm going to give you this, which sounds confusing, right? But it says the second clue has been delayed. The second clue has been delayed. Does that make it any easier for you? Get your guesses in right now. It doesn't for me. 80295. No correct guesses just yet, so you've still got your chance. Have a think during Wham. This is I'm Your Man.
Now, I've never been one to knock the next man for getting his, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I do realize that hip-hop is now a form of showbiz. But this has always been something with which you have to be true. So in the year of 1992,
Now this is how we do.
at the age of 19, heard the scene. A lot of MCs that do not come clean, frontin' on dealing hard times and rhymes. You see them in the streets and you see no signs of the hell. And they get on stage and tell some old cornball war story. Ring the bell.
Word.
You're faking the funk, talking that extra hard junk. You're probably a punk. And I'ma let you know that this way you just don't cut with the artificial flow.
Neat, exotic, break backs and necks. When fakers try to front, they'll get smoked like blunts. My rhymes penetrate like skunk. Get your word up. I think they're faking the
You're
funk.
faking the funk. Yo, you're 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 faking the funk. You do a song about a current event, get on television and seem hesitant to represent, and that's what we call fraud. You can't keep the streets with a look I sold out award.
Word.
And everywhere has streets that's not trying to hear the whack rhymes over the same stink beats. Cause times are real and I can't feel putting down on the real.
Now I'ma let you know, with those freestyle raps, it's time to go. I eject, rejects that step. I'm a vet ready to snap your neck. I shine and rise at the same time. The mastermind of a sport called the rhyme. Now it's time to dump chumps that in front of your professor. What's up?
You're faking the funk. You're faking the funk. Yo, you're faking the funk. You're faking the funk. Yo, you're faking the funk. You're faking the funk. Yo, you're faking the funk. You're faking the funk. The era of the whack MC is getting shut down when the main source storms through your town. Cause we just don't play the role of a clown and keep things jumping with the real rap sounds. To the crossover rapper with the bleach.
To those chumps that's claiming the streets.
Frontin' incredible feats.
To the girl acting like a prostitute.
Wearing that hooker type suit.
To the rappers with the big space shoes.
To the artist that doesn't pay due.
Cause exotic's the thing it's on with the hypertone. I can't be blown cause my rhymes are hard like stone. Don't prepare for the scare cause I'm the worst nightmare, punk. Could you
It is just coming up to 10:30, which means it's time for our Ask the Vet. Well, just their tease. We'll get the full surgery after 11 o'clock this morning, but a resident vet from Pets and Vet Glasgow, Ross Allen, is with me. Morning to you.
Morning, Connie.
How are you getting on?
I'm doing well.
Good. Well, if you've got something that you're desperate to ask Ross, right, there's maybe something that's been on your mind about your dog, your cat, any pet that you got at home, then this is your opportunity, right? So you can text in right now, 80295, or you can give Ross a call, 08085 92 95 00. I'm just the middlewoman in this situation, so I'm happy to take your call and Ross will answer your questions. I want to talk to you about something that's been in the news quite a lot over the last couple of months, and in particular here in Scotland, actually, the news that the police in Hamilton shot a dog who they say was out of control. And I guess it gets us thinking. We don't know the breed of the dog, Ross, but it gets us thinking about, again, the safety around the dogs that we keep, and I guess in particular the legislation around XL bullies.
Yeah, so kind of where we are is that there had been mentioned in the news about this dog, and there had been mentioned that it was a large, well-muscled dog. Take from it what you will, but the reason this has been in the news particularly has to do with the reported rise in the number of incidents, certainly south of the border, and a suggestion there might have been a rise also north of the border as well. And in England, as many people will know, there has been this ban enacted at the end of December and fully coming into force at the end of January, which is a ban on Bully XL. Okay, and what's been announced by the Scottish Government is there also is going to be a ban on Bully XLs in Scotland, although the exact nature of that is still yet to be fully outlined, as it were. But for me, the thing is, like driving here today, Connie, I see lots of big, well-muscled dogs, which I think for owners of those dogs that quite often might not come with a breed certificate, they might not come with their kennel club registration. I think it's the sort of thing that these owners are quite likely going to need to know what this proposed legislation is going to be, because there might be things they need to do if, as is suggested, the legislation that comes into play in Scotland does indeed mirror exactly the legislation as it is in England. So, for instance, in England, if people have a dog which is described as a Bully XL, so if it's a large, well-muscled dog, about 50 centimetres high at the withers or thereabouts, if it's got a smooth coat, if it's got large, strong shoulders, if it's got a long tail, these kind of descriptive things, so it's not a specific breed. But if it is a dog that looks like that, what they've had to do in England is they've had to apply for a certificate of exemption and also get the dog microchipped, get the dog neutered, and they do need to make promises to keep it on a lead and muzzled when outside in any sort of public space. And this is quite a lot for owners to do if they're not aware of it, and certainly it's something I think many owners, could be caught out if they're not aware of the proposed legislation. And I think the other thing is that, there are resources online on various web pages of examples of these Bully XL, as is described in England. And the examples are, I think, dogs that commonly you see on the streets walking around and all that. So I think it's something that, especially owners of larger breed, well-muscled dogs, if they're not kennel club registered with a breed certificate, you want to keep a close eye out and watch about what the legislation is going to be when it comes into play.
How effective do you think this can be? And I know you've not got a crystal ball, right? But if you say that a dog is 50 centimetres, what about a dog that's 48 centimetres? I mean, is there sort of holes in this legislation that could leave people at risk?
What I heard was, and a good quote was, politics is the art of the possible, all right? And I think the problem with this is that a number of charities and veterinary groups as well, they fully understand the need for increased kind of controls or safeguards. We are concerned about the danger to the public, about the increased number of reports of incidents. But I think the concern is trying to outline what is perceived to be a specific breed to be dangerous rather than dogs in general. Because the reality is that any breed of dog can be dangerous if it's not been brought up correctly, socialised correctly, trained properly. So trying to introduce breed-specific legislation for a dog that is not a specific breed seems a bit clunky and not likely to be that easily workable to me, Connie.
Right. I've got two questions on this, right? Because I love any chat about dogs. Within that, right, and your experience as a vet, do you think that you can sort of look at a breed in particular and have a good indication about how aggressive they're going to be based on breed alone, rather than looking at actually how this the pup has been brought up in, what environment and all the rest of it. Is that can you do that?
I think there might be some breeds are more prone, or certain types of dogs are more prone to being aggressive. But for me, I mean, I meet loads of dogs every single week, and any dog can be a bit scared, especially if I'm in a consultant room or they're coming in and they're not knowing what's going to happen. And I would never anticipate based purely on breed. It would more be like their facial shape, where their ears are, how they come into the room. All these kind of things kind of give you an idea in terms of whether or not they're stressed and whether or not they're more likely to be aggressive. That's certainly my experience.
And so, with that in mind then, do you think another possibility to this could be, again, just in your experience, that as part of, as well as muzzling, leading these dogs, making sure that they're registered, is in some way education for owners to make sure they actually know? Because realistically, you can go out and buy a dog without any, or a cat or whatever else, without any sort of need to be educated on how to look after them properly.
I think owner education is the key thing, Connie. Definitely. And many of the charities especially support, there's lots of resources that are available, but it's up to people whether or not they choose to read them and make use of them. But a number of charities really do advocate strongly for owners taking every opportunity, and indeed some go stronger in terms of suggesting they should provide evidence that they have fully understood and read up on how to look after their puppy, how to socialise them well, and how to integrate them into their household properly.
Really interesting. I'd love to know your thoughts on this as well, by the way, 80295. And Ross is going to be back after 11 o'clock. If you've got any questions about this or anything else you've got, maybe your rabbit's got a sore tooth.
Rabbits are prone to dental problems,
They are.
Connie.
Well, do you not remember we had a ferret? We had a ferret conversation once as well, I don't know, last year or something like that. So anything you've got up your sleeve you want to ask Ross about, this is your opportunity to do that, right? So 80295, or you can give us a call, 08085 92 95 00. Let's get some more music. This is I'm Free by the Soup Dragons.
Don't be afraid of your freedom. From my granddaddy, come. These are the words me hear from my granddaddy. He said nothing in this world like when a man know him free. Free from the lock, I miss free from the key. Free like a butterfly, free like a bee. These are the words me hear from my granddaddy. Said it's nice to be free, nice to be free. Free from the lock, I miss free from the key. Don't be afraid of your freedom. 'Cause I'm free, do what I want, any old time.
Dragons and I'm Free on BBC Radio Scotland. It's 22:11. I hope you're well. We are going to be talking about bowel cancer, right? Because it's one of the most common forms of the disease in Scotland, and regardless of age, a diagnosis can have significant life-altering consequences. But new research has found that the death rate from bowel cancer among people under 50 in the UK will increase by about a third this year. These findings also suggest a concerning association between the trend and factors such as obesity, unhealthy diets and the lack of physical activity. So let's talk more about this. Les Samuel is a colorectal oncologist at the Aberdeen Royal Infirmary. Morning to you, Les.
Morning, Connie.
Thanks for coming on. We've also got John Coyne, who has been diagnosed with bowel cancer at the age of 43. Morning, John.
Morning, folks.
Thanks so much again as well for coming on the programme. John, let me start with you, and I guess that moment where you realised that something was wrong. Take us back to that, if you will.
For me, it was a kind of gradual process. I've always had kind of trouble with blood when I'm going to the toilet, so I've never really paid any attention to it. And in the summer of 2020, it got a good bit heavier. And again, I just thought, you know what, this is nothing. Until I got to the stage, maybe in December, when I had to go to the doctors. And the doctor actually told me I had hemorrhoids. She gave me an examination, my stomach, my rectum, and sent me away with stuff for hemorrhoids. And I thought, right, well, that's great, thanks. And probably about a month later, nothing had changed. And I thought there was just something wasn't right. I thought I need to get this sorted. And I went back again. It was a different doctor I saw this time. And he gave me an examination again, but this time he said he couldn't find anything wrong. And I thought, something not right here at all. And he spoke to me after it, asked me how I was, and asked me how I was feeling, and I just point blank said to him, I was scared of dying. And I think that kind of maybe gave him a wee shout. And he's ended up, he put me through for a colonoscopy, and it was bloods. And it was about a week later after the blood samples that I get told to go for I had to go for the colonoscopy. And during the colonoscopy, that's when the colonoscopy was a bit painful, so they kind of take you out after it and like take you into a room. And my wife was with me. My wife now, she was with me, and you don't realise, it's like being on a TV, it's been on a film, you see all this, you get taken into the room, you think, oh. But it took me into the room, and I thought they were just going to say sorry for the pain, and basically explained to me that, listen, this is looking like cancer. And it was the last thing, and it didn't even go through my mind. That was me kind of shocked. I thought, I'm the fittest guy in this hospital. Clearly I wasn't.
And you're right, it is that moment, and loads of people say the same thing about, it's like you're looking around you thinking this can't be happening to me. And it is. So from that moment, then what happened next? When did you begin treatment, and what did that look like?
Well, this was during lockdown in 2021, so it was maybe about a week later I got a phone call for an MRI scan and a CT scan, and I went for them, but you still don't find out anything. See, for about another 2 weeks, you don't know the extent of the cancer. You don't know anything. You're in a limbo. So for a few weeks, I was in a pretty dark place in a limbo. I didn't have a clue what was going on. And eventually, when the doctor eventually told me that it was definitely cancer, I was actually relieved. Just taking
So you know what you're dealing with?
Well, yeah. Do you know? And then he told me, he kind of ran me through a couple of things that was going to happen. I was going to go up to the Beatson to see my colorectal team. And then after that, it was basically they would explain to me when treatment was to start. I think that started in April.
And then from that point, did you? What was sort of treatment like, and how long did that last for you?
Treatment, it was 5 weeks of radiotherapy and 5 weeks of chemotherapy. I took the chemo tablets in the house, and basically the first couple of weeks of treatment, it was fine. I thought nothing's happening here, and then after that, it was quite very hard. And even after treatment for a good while, I found it pretty hard as well. But I think after your treatment, you wait another 12 weeks to see the extent. I was told I was going to go for surgery, and luckily, after 12 weeks, I got a phone call again tell me that I had a complete clinical response to the treatment, so I wouldn't need the surgery so far.
So where are you at now then?
Well, I think I'm in my third year of remission.
That's amazing.
It's 2021. I'm on it's like a watch and wait system where for the first year I was going up to the hospital for sigmoidoscopies and MRI scans every 3 months. Then they moved it up to every 4 months, and now I'm every 6 months. So I say I try not to think about it. I just think when I go to the hospital, I think about it, but the rest of the time I'm thinking, nah, nothing.
Yeah, you just want to get on with your life, I guess, as well.
So, I'm not going to spend 6 months worrying about what's going to happen in my next scan. I've got 2 kids, so that's what I'm dealing with.
Well, I want to bring in Les, who, as I mentioned, is a colorectal oncologist. Les, for you, this is a horrendous experience. I can't even imagine what that must have been like for you, John, to go through. But Les, I'm assuming this is sort of daily practice for you every day.
Yes, it is. It is indeed. Obviously, most of our patients, average age of a colorectal patient, 70. But the number of people less than 50 is not, in absolute numbers, isn't big, but the percentage increase is going up year on year, and has been doing it since the early 1990s. So we are seeing more younger people coming through. And I think John highlights some of the issues that all our patients, as well as our younger ones, face, which is that anxiety about waiting. You know, you get investigations, and then obviously we have to wait till they're reported, and then you get the results, and then you get planned for something else. And in some ways, it's nice to hear John's experience because, of course, he's been spared radical surgery.
Yeah.
By having his pre-op treatment, which has completely eliminated the cancer, or thus far anyway.
And when you talk about the change in age group and that increasing, do we have any idea why that is?
You've asked a really good question, because the majority of younger people with colorectal cancer don't have any obvious risk factors, not even a family history. So when we know about the risk factors in the whole population for bowel cancer, and I think you said that in introduction, obesity, diabetes, alcohol intake, red meat, processed food, lack of exercise. But when you look at younger people, it's one of the things that triggered us about 15, 16 years ago to look at our patients more closely, because we just couldn't see any obvious risk factor in these patients coming through the clinic. So you then begin to wonder, well, could there be other things going on, maybe other things in childhood or adolescence? So we looked at antibiotics, and certainly if you've got a history of exposure to antibiotics as a child and an adolescent, you certainly have a higher risk of colon cancer, but not rectal cancer, which of course is what John was describing.
We've seen in the last year or so the awareness that was raised through Dame Deborah James and her campaign. I think it was £11.3 million towards research was raised. What do we know about, I guess, where that money is going and what areas of research, and are we seeing anything coming from that yet?
Well, it's probably a little bit early.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of that money, I think, because obviously the first thing is that the people have to put projects together to investigate it to the people that hold the funds. So they have those projects have to be properly assessed to make sure they're a good use of all that charity money that's been raised. But certainly people are looking to try and see if we can not just, I guess, work out why it's happening, but also look at the challenges of treating younger people. Again, John mentioned he's got young children. So the sort of, in our clinic, obviously, where the average age of a person is 70, you've got different challenges for younger people like John. Fertility, financial ones, when you've got a young family, about employment and mortgages. And we do know, for example, that younger people have a higher emotional and psychological burden. Well, I think John described it really well. He never thought he got cancer to begin with, and his doctor who saw him didn't either, because it's relatively rare. And I guess one of the things that this program and as you say, the previous sort of highlighting of that younger people can get this means that hopefully there'll be more people looking to get investigated. Perhaps we might lower the risk of screening to 45. That's what they're suggesting in the US. And obviously, if people have symptoms, the question then, I guess it's easy for me to say as a hospital doctor, but referral, people going to their GP and asking for investigations, even if it's simple as doing a blood test in the stool.
Right. Tell us again about symptoms to look out for, Les.
Well, I mean, John,
all the things that John mentioned,
himself. Yeah, he described, he'd never had a particular regular bowel habit, and there's lots of people in that situation. So the symptoms can be very vague, from weight loss to anemia to altered bowel habit to rectal bleeding. There's no one clear symptom that you can say if you have that, you should get checked out. And so I suppose people should have a low threshold for looking to see if they can get checked out, because at least if they're found to not have anything, then that's reassuring. I guess the challenge is do we have a system that could cope with that? Because there's no point in being referred for some assessment or investigations if we can't actually do it for a long time. So there's a particular challenge there if the number of people that are going to be picked up is relatively small versus the number of people who have the symptoms.
But then, John, I guess in your case, you being part of that really small number, you would, I'm assuming, encourage people to be persistent if they've got symptoms like this?
Well, yeah, obviously if you go to the doctor and the doctor tells you something, you're going to believe the doctor, but if you've still got the symptoms, I would urge anybody to go back again and ask again. But what we found out with mine was actually genetic. We found that obviously it was actually, my gran had actually had bowel cancer years ago, and I think her father had it before her. So mine's actually, and I was tested for Lynch syndrome, which I tested positive for. But we didn't know that until...
Well, that's it.
Tested my tumour.
Exactly, and this is not something necessarily we all have conversations about around the dinner table about things that have happened in the past, and these things only pop up whenever you're faced with that. I mean, John, I'm so glad that thank you very much for coming on and being so honest and sharing your story, and I'm really glad that you're feeling good and you're healthy at the moment.
No problem, thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much. John Coyne there, who had bowel cancer at age 43, is in remission, has been in remission for 3 years, which is brilliant. And Les Samuel, the colorectal oncologist at Aberdeen Royal Infirmary. Thanks for your time, Les.
Bye.
Appreciate that. All right, it is 10:53.
Stay calm. Concentrate on the screen. Street Fighter 2 is on Super Nintendo. From the arcades, the ultimate combat game. Each fighter has a different technique, an acrobatic move, a hidden punch. It's on the streets now, exclusively on Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo with Street Fighter 2. It's unbeatable.
Now, what do the words justice, captain and princess all have in common? Well, they're among the extensive list of baby names that are recently banned in New Zealand by their government. But these names are actually already used here in Scotland. So what are the rules when it comes to naming your baby? Here to talk more about this with me is Lesley-Anne Kelly, Head of Data Journalism at DC Thomson, and Catherine Carroll Meehan, Executive Dean of Education and Social Sciences at Liverpool Hope University. Morning, both of you.
Morning, Connie.
Right, okay. We know, Lesley-Anne, that I'd used the Justice, Captain, Princess. I gave them as examples of what's happening in New Zealand. Any other ones?
Oh, there's lots. I mean, the issue is in Scotland, we have very similar rules to the rules in New Zealand, but they're really just guidelines here in Scotland. So it's really up to each registrar whether they are happy to register the names or not. And I found very, very few hard and fast rules in Scotland. So there are lots of examples. There's lots of captains, prince, princess, queens, kings, all of those kind of title names. The rules in Scotland also say that you shouldn't have a name that is particularly fanciful, which I'm not even sure what that means exactly. There's a rule in the guideline about not having a name that is just an initial letter, and I found 81 babies in Scotland that had a name that was just an initial letter.
Like J or something like that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, all sorts. And then a name that the registrar considers objectionable or offensive. And I'm not sure that I could actually say on BBC Radio Scotland some of the names that I have found in the data. So yeah, Scotland is not a country that's particularly led by rules when it comes to naming babies.
Catherine, what is it about? What's the real importance of the names that we choose for our children that we have for ourselves?
Yeah. I'm an Australian, so I'll declare that straight up, but I've been lived in the UK for the last 18 years. And I also have a background as a teacher, and I remember teaching a child whose name was Z, just the letter Z. So that child had a particular identity. And I think the thing that names do is that as a parent, when you're choosing names, you're choosing from a range of criteria. You've got your cultural, your religious. Do you want it to be a gender-specific name? It's around your social class. It could be about social media engaged with your ethnicity. But names are so important because they provide, in some cases, a link to the past, and we're seeing a resurgence of lots of names like Wilfred and names that we would have, and Albert, and those sorts of names that are really quite old. But we're also seeing names that are quite innovative and unique spellings of words that are commonly used. So I guess it's really tied up in the identity that the parent or parents are choosing for the child, and this is their first presentation to the world of a new person, and names are something that are really, really personal and really important to us.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's such a responsibility naming another human being. What do you think? What do you think impact that has on personalities, Catherine?
Well, I mean, as a parent, and I was a teacher during my pregnancy stages, I had real difficulty choosing names because every time my partner suggested a name, it was, no, I've taught one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the list of boys' names and girls' names, got very, very short. But I do think names, they can, I think meanings of names sometimes, so for example, I called my daughter Sophie, and that name means wisdom, and it's, Greek origins. And for me, that was an important sort of characteristic. And as she's now in her mid-20s, she's sort of grown into having some of those characteristics. And I guess to one extent, it was reinforced by the fact that was a decision that we made. But I do think it can lead to some things, but it's more about the socialisation that happens around the child. If you called a child Tiger and, they were quite a tenacious, small person, and, they probably would become a bit of a tiger as they grew up. But I guess it's the connotations in the rest of our language about how that's used.
Lesley-Anne, do we have any tigers?
I can check for you if you give me 2 seconds.
You've got about a minute to check, but I guess not that I'm putting you under pressure here. It is that idea of, should someone, while you're checking, Lesley-Anne, have the right to determine what we call our children?
I mean, I can tell you that we have lots of tigers in Scotland. Yeah, we do indeed.
Lots of
male and female tigers. So.
That's surprising. But yeah, just back to that point, just briefly, if you will, Lesley, on that idea of should someone else have that responsibility of naming our kids?
It's something that I've done so much digging into baby name data that I really go backwards and forwards on quite a lot, because I understand people's points of view on, kind of intervention in people's decision making that maybe some people disagree with, but there are some names that I see on the list that I just think if maybe a registrar had pushed back a little bit, like I've spoken to some parents of some very unusual names.
I can imagine, and that music, it means we need to leave it there because the news is coming. The news is coming next, and it waits for no man. coming up in the next hour.
She was one of those people who could eat in restaurants alone. You should try it. It's a really good thing to do. I think I would feel really self-conscious, like I was on display or something.
Oh, do you feel the same? If you do, don't worry. We've got your guides on how to embrace dining for one. And Ross Allen returns to take your questions in this week's Ask the Vet surgery. He's going to be talking about the latest pet-related news, including whether you should carry your pets in handbags and where you should flush and where you shouldn't flush your animals' poos. Right, get in touch right now if you want to call 08085 92 95 00 or send him a text on 80295. Plus, we were kind of talking about it with our guests when we were discussing bowel cancer just before the news. But in a book called Why Can't I See My GP, Dr. Ellen Wells says the next generation should be educated on exactly how to access their GPs. What is the right thing to do? And if it's not the GP, where should you go? We're going to be talking about that before 12 o'clock.
All the conversations that matter.
Mornings on BBC Radio Scotland.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
It's Tuesday, it means we're playing Name the Place today. I gave you clue 1 and clue 2. The first one is the first clue to today's place name has gone up in price. The second clue has been delayed. And clue 3, don't bank on getting the correct answer. Don't bank on getting the correct answer. Mike in Port Glasgow said, is it Sannox on the Isle of Arran? No. Is it Dollar, says Bob in Mount Vernon? It's not. 80295. Keep your thoughts coming in. But that's 3 clues in. If you've got any indication, keep your thoughts coming in to me. As I say, then the text number is 80295. We're going to be talking about all your vet-related questions shortly. But let's get some more music for you this morning.
The act of making love is pink cookies in a plastic bag, getting crushed by buildings. Pink cookies in a plastic bag, getting crushed by buildings. I take 30 electric chairs and put them in a classroom, 30 MCs and set them free from their doom. Just like a tomahawk cuts through the wind when we begin, the wheel of fortune, it spins, holding the rhythm like elastic, molding your whole body like plastic. So I try to deny what you already know you love up above. Cause a mania, hysteria in the streets, while your lovers get merrier in the sheets. I met this lady named Sweet Young Thing, and she gave me that feeling, that sunshine bringing. Portable, sportable, totally affordable, silky smooth, voice was real audible. I said, you're cool as Ice Cuba. She said, you're the public enemy I seen on the tuba. Nah, I'm like your uncle, baby. The style of your beautiful face drives me crazy. What can we do? You're so heavy, I'm deep. She said, you tried to play me like Big Daddy. I said, I know your tribe. I called and requested for you to be manifested. She said, you know the same gang on my flavor unit too. I said, you only knew the certain things I wanna do to you. Rub you down with warm iced tea, make you feel brand Nubian instantly. Boogie down and check this production. Give me them lips, they look good for suction. She said, sweet tea's cool with a little llama joint on the side, just doing it fly. You like pound cake, come to my house. Turn on the lights, you see me on the couch. I said, you're jingling, you're from around the way. I like your earrings, 2 L's, but anyway. Your granddaddy is here to spread cheer. Something nice and smooth with my tongue in your ear. Give me a snack, some salt and pepper on a burger. Ice cream tea, or if you prefer the taste of honey kid ride in my Caprian. That's the joint, they got the real clear CD. She said stars couldn't get me in a car. I don't know what type of man you are. You might know karate, do me and get away. I got a glimpse of your license plate, NWA. Pink cookies in a plastic bag, getting crushed by buildings. Pink cookies in a plastic bag, getting crushed by buildings. Pink cookies in a plastic bag, getting crushed by buildings. Pink cookies in a plastic bag, getting crushed by buildings. She was chubby and ready to rock and naughty by nature and part of my private stocking. Riding in the relaxed frame of mind. Hammer time, incredible. So edible and unforgettable, soft like a Q-tip. I'd love to get with you, cause I'm the type of guy that got props due. Feeling it more and more. When I get ready for a showcase put together well, I go deep and have an all your well show and tell. I said, yo, you're so intelligent and elegant. I never run the BD with another MC. I got what I want right in front of me. I know a kid named K, he's an MD. Last time I style by leg, and I guess ain't no way to get you out. You're so caught up. SEXUAL, sort of a freaky situation with a peppermint twist. Ricky and Mike is next on the list. Nastified and all funkified. Come on, ride. Take your here, never fear what you hear is a clear understanding of your big rear. And I will appear, my dear, with a beer and bags full of cheer. The waterbed, yeah, cause I rumble and groan. She said you gotta be bad to make them only moan. Ain't no reason to front on the way of life shown. Oh yeah, I'm jumping your bones like a grand master in a flash. Put out your cigarette and rest your tired ass. All I wanna do is make whoopee. You're my pink cookie, not a rookie. When you take it off, I love a lookie. Cause I'ma mix it up tour style. Peace out, you got the sexual profile. Pink cookies in a plastic bag, getting crushed by buildings. Pink cookies in a plastic bag, getting crushed by buildings. Pink cookies in a plastic bag, getting crushed by buildings. Pink cookies in a plastic bag, getting crushed by buildings.
And it is time for our vet surgery. Award-winning vet Ross Allen from Pets and Vets in Glasgow is back to talk through all of your pet-related stories and also your questions. You can get them in right now. 80295 is the text number, or you can give him a call. He's sitting right beside me. He's ready. He's waiting. He's poised. Right. 0885 92 95 00. We're going to head to the phone lines and speak to Caroline shortly. But I just wanted to ask you about this story. Right, Claudia Schiffer has come under a bit of criticism, Ross, for hitting the red carpet with her cat Chip, and I don't mean she's hitting Chip with a red carpet as in Chip was in her backpack.
Yep.
And we were just chatting about that off air there, about this idea of whether it's right to take cats out if they're not necessarily they've not decided they want to go themselves.
Yeah, so I think Claudia was on the red carpet, and I think she's done a movie, I think, that involves a cat,
right?
Maybe even her cat or something similar to that. But what she decided to do was put her cat in like a backpack with a kind of glass window into the backpack.
Yeah, I've seen this.
The cat can kind of peer out and look out. I definitely wouldn't recommend it. I mean, I think cats, on a backpack, walking about, they're going to be getting bounced about, they're not going to know which way is up or where they're going. All that thing's going to be stressful for the cat, and then people are looking in and definitely not wise. I have seen these things in the consult room of practices, so there are people who do use these to transport their cats, but it's definitely not my personal preference. I don't think they're going to be, they're not a great thing for the cat. They're not great in terms of getting the cat in and out of it at the practice.
Yeah.
So my preferred option for moving a cat around is that it's in a plastic box, like cat carrier type box, and ideally one that you can take the door off and then take the lid off without the cat having to come out. But Claudia's backpack, that's not the worst way of moving your cat. What was standard for years, decades, was the wicker basket cat box to take your cat around. And they quite often, if cats had digestive issues, were not a good combination of a wicker cat box and a cat with digestive issues. I spent many years clearing that up. So,
yeah.
Do think about where you're moving your cat, and definitely the backpack idea is not the best for the cat.
I follow this guy on Instagram and other social platforms available who has got a cat, and he's written loads of books and stuff about his adventure with this cat, and the cat's on a lead all the time, but the cat's been used to being on that lead since it was a little kitten and loves sort of exploring, and it means that the cat's safe. Have you seen that in Scotland?
I've seen that in Scotland. I've seen one of my colleagues, she knew her cats well, and definitely they seemed very relaxed on it. Again, she was on a social platform and uploaded photos of her cats, which I don't know if they did the whole lot on their own, and I'm not sure how they got to the start, but they went up them in rows.
Hey, but you're thinking if you're a cat and that's what you've been exposed to, you would love going out and explore. I think is it taking the lead from the cat, if you pardon the pun.
Yep. I think if your cat's used to it and seems to enjoy it, then I think that's all right. Yeah.
Okay. Right. From cats to dogs, and Caroline in Edinburgh wants to talk about her dog. Morning to Caroline, first of all.
Morning.
Your dog's 15, is that right?
She's just coming up for 15, yeah. She's a Labradoodle, and she's a really good dog. She's never really had anything health worries. But recently she's started drinking an awful lot of water. And I'm just wanting to make sure that this is quite normal for an older dog to start drinking more water than usual.
Okay, well, thanks for calling in, Caroline. So what's your dog's name? That's the first question.
Cookie.
Cookie, okay. So in terms of Cookie, I mean, older dogs drinking more than usual is an important thing for you to notice, and if you're noticing it, quite likely it will be relevant, and it is something to, to try and investigate a bit and get on top of and figure out what's causing it. Okay, so probably the first question would be, I mean, have you noticed any other changes, especially changes to Cookie's appetite or to Cookie's weight or digestive habits, things like that at all?
No, I mean, she's been fine. She's just been in and had a tooth out, and she has sort of tests done at the vets then, but everything was totally fine. But no, I mean, going to the toilet and all these kind of things, she's been totally fine. It's just, I've just noticed that she's drinking more water than normal, and I just thought,
Right. So if you've noticed that, I mean, normally like dogs or cats that are drinking more than usual, it's a kind of standard exam question for at university. It's about what to do to investigate, and there is a kind of like pathway of things to be done. So the first thing is something you can do at home, Caroline, that's quick or relatively quick and dead easy to do, and that's to measure how much Cookie's drinking. Okay, so for dogs and for cats, there's a normal value which is about 50 mils per kilogram. So if Cookie's a standard Labrador, she can probably drink about 2.5 pints of water a day, and that's not excessive.
She's a Labradoodle.
Labradoodle, yep.
But is that about the same?
About the same, yeah. But if she was like drinking more than about 5 pints a day, that would definitely be something significant in terms of her thirst and her drinking. All right. So I think probably you will, what I'm going to say next, want to go back to the vet, I think, and maybe get some other blood samples done. But I think going in with the info as to how much she's drinking in a day is really, really helpful. Otherwise, that'll be the first thing we'll want you to do. In terms of peeing, are you noticing a difference in terms of how often she's been out to the toilet or how big her pees are, if you like? No,
she's been totally fine.
Okay.
Going to the toilet, that seems totally fine. And she's wanting more food than not, but that is just, I think, I've just been a wee bit wanting more treats.
Okay. So first thing you're going to do is measure her water intake and how much she's drinking, and the second thing is to get a urine sample. All right. So when you go back to your vet, if you go in with the sample that you've collected, just clean a Tupperware dish out, maybe rinse it out with some boiled water, that kind of thing. Catch a sample. Doesn't need to be large, okay? We don't want ones that are going to spill on the way in, but take it in a sealed container would be great. And your vet and their nurse would quite likely want to do a couple of simple tests, like these dipstick tests and other tests to measure the concentration of our urine, all right? Then after that, there's a discussion probably with your own vet about what blood samples might be indicated in terms of trying to investigate whether or not her drinking is truly excessive, and that will come down to the volume, but also the possible causes. And there's the simple tests that are quite quick and easy, that are blood samples. And then there's other blood samples which are a bit more involved, a bit more complicated, okay? But before embarking on that, because it is one of these situations where there might be a quick answer, but quite often there'll be a systematic approach, and it's important you understand why each test was getting done before doing it, okay? Does that make some sense, Caroline?
Yep, that's great. That's lovely.
Ross, could it be food related?
Well, have you changed Cookie's food recently at all, Caroline?
Well, do you know, the only thing I have changed is her treats.
Right.
So we've changed our treats to more sort of healthy options. So could it be that?
Not normally. I mean, if you were giving her food that was really salty, for instance, it might make her drink a bit more. But if you're noticing a more kind of significant increase in how much she's drinking, it's unlikely our food could play a part in that. And those numbers that I mentioned, in terms of what is a normal thirst for a dog, even if they're on dry food, even if they're on treats, it still shouldn't be more than that number that we calculate, as it were.
My dog does that with dry food. So she normally has wet food, and then sometimes if her friends come and visit and they have a bit of dry food, she's lapping the water up after it, which is I think just because she's not used to the dry. She's
not used to the dry. So wet food is normally about 50% water. So half a tin of dog food is water, right? Yes. So if they're fed dry food, dogs naturally, and cats as well, will want to drink more. But the opposite is also true. So a common call, or I think that's raising a consult with ourselves, is my dog never drinks, all right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's because they're on wet food. And if they're on wet food, they really won't need to drink much at all, all right? So what's important, Caroline, I think, is to measure how much Cookie drinks over a full 24 hours. So make sure the whole family's on board. Nobody tops up her bowl without measuring it, first of all, and try and go in with a number of how many mils she drinks in a day. That'd be a good first.
It can be trial and error with these things as well, can't it?
In terms of measuring the water, or
But even just like if you're doing that and you're sometimes getting to a point where you're like, I just don't know what's going on here and there doesn't seem to be an answer. Could it be just taking the treats out just to see, for example?
Personally, I think for a dog like Cookie who's older, you can stop the treats, but I think
Cookie's listening saying, do not stop the treats.
But if you think she's drinking more than usual, measure it, and then you'll know whether or not it's something to worry about. Because it might be you think she's drinking quite a lot, but actually she's still less than that 50 mils per kilogram, and it's not something to worry about. But if it is more than that, I think the prudent thing to do is to have a chat with your own vet about the other tests that can be done to investigate it.
Oh, Caroline, let us know how you got on, will you?
That's great. I will do. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for that. It's Caroline in Edinburgh there. Adele, who's also in Edinburgh, has been on to say, I've noticed my dog has a swollen area at the bottom right-hand side of her neck. I think it might be a swollen lymph node. She got a little bit of dental, or she has some dental disease. Would this cause a swollen lymph node? She says she's booked in for a scale and polish this week. She seems absolutely fine otherwise. Eating well, playful and energetic. She's 7 years old, medium size, crossbreed.
Okay, so it's a good question from Adele. So lymph nodes are in dogs' bodies, they're in our bodies, and they're like the filtration system for checking over the fluid that's in your body, especially for looking for infection or things that need kind of dealt with by your immune system, all right? In dogs' anatomy, the anatomy of lymph nodes, there are ones that are under their jaw, so just the underside of their actual jaw, and there are also ones that are lower down their neck in front of their shoulder blades in that kind of area. So if Adele has noticed a kind of swelling, especially in front of the shoulders or under the jaw, it could indeed be a lymph node. What I would maybe say, however, is that in dogs with dental disease, you can sometimes get lymph nodes up a little bit, but if Adele's actually noticing an isolated like swelling in the lower neck, it's maybe more likely to be a lump that's involved in the skin or under the skin, all right? So actual lymph nodes going up with dental disease, unless it's really, really bad dental disease, I think that's maybe a bit less likely something somebody would easily notice, as it were. So I think for Adele, the thing that I would definitely recommend is that when her dog goes in for its dental checkup or to get the scale and polish, she talks to the nurse at the time of the admit consult or whatever and lets them know that she's noticed this lump and mentions that to them. And I think that's something that when her dog's in, having its dental, having its scale and polish, the vet and their team should easily be able to do a wee biopsy or whatever to assess this more fully and let Adele know exactly what it is.
Okay, Adele, hopefully that's helpful for you. It gives you a bit of an idea, guess what to do next. On this idea of water, again, I think we've started something now. This anonymous texter says, my dog won't touch dry food. If I soak the pellets up in water for 10 minutes, he laps them up.
That's something definitely dogs sometimes like, and also if you put a bit of warm water on it, I find myself saying that if you put the warm water on it, it absorbs it, they'll actually drink more or eat more, consume more water, and it will smell nicer if you're a dog.
I know, because you smell some of these foods and you think, no wonder they won't go near it. Although tasty if you're a dog, I'm assuming. Right, okay, keep your thoughts on that coming in, by the way, or your questions coming in, 80295 if you want to send Ross a question. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. If you're having your lunch, or maybe your 11s right now, maybe turn the radio down just for a second, because we're going to talk about poo and why you should never flush your dogs down the toilet. I did not know this.
Yeah, I didn't really think about